spiritual, social, educational, physical, and vocational. So we invest and we speak into these young men's life as 12 to 15-year-old.
Right.
And it's exciting. This is one of our star students, actually, for this year. He just completed.
Good.
Just completed the program.
Good, and we want to talk about, so one of the things they do, vocational, is that they're learning a lot of things about entrepreneurship, and then also we taught things in the area of investing and everything like that.
Absolutely.
So I'm going to come over here and actually talk to your mother first and just ask just some general questions and everything, and then also everybody can kind of tune into if you have anything. So we look at, as we're doing certain things, we say like, hey, what are some things we want to teach our kids that they want to know financially and different things like that? Because there's this old saying, money doesn't grow on trees. Your parents say that, and you say like, then all of a sudden now you're saying that at a later time. So what's some things that just in general that you want to just kind of teach your son or just kids to know in the area of finances?
That money is a tool.
Right.
It's a tool to, live, to purchase things, to, benefit the kingdom, do God's work, but also that, it has value. And that, that money passes on, it's used to be passed, it's meant to be passed on and used. Right. Sometimes you can save it and keep it and invest it. Right. But there is a principle of it's a resource. It's a tool for us to use.
Good. So that's one of the things we want to talk about is a resource. Because see, one of the first things we learn is that God is our source and everything else is resources. So I'm glad that you taught them that in the area of a tool. It's so funny. My kids, I started teaching them exactly the same way. So one of the things is they all started working or doing entrepreneurship. I think I told you this one day. My daughter came to me one day and just asked me for $20 just straight out the box. Just asked me, hey, man, can I have $20? I was shocked. So I said, Gracie, what would it take for us to make $20? Then she started saying she wanted to make bath bombs, different things. So then we invested $41.
How old was she when she asked for that?
7 years old.
7 years old, asked for $20.
Asked me $20.
I think that's your fault.
Right. I'm saying, I had to adjust her for inflation and taxes. What's going on with that? She ended up making $120. So when she made the money, the first thing we said is, we need the $41 back, plus what's our rate of return? So then she starts asking what those questions are. Mm-hmm. So we want you to write down as you're watching us is that, hey, just write down some practical steps that you can kind of take. So one of them is that we start looking at having a job or opening a business and what does it take to get certain things. Mm-hmm. So, and doing that. Stephen, when you get money, one of the first things you think about when you get money is what? What do you do with money when you get it?
Honestly, the first thing I think of when I'm getting money is spending it, mostly. Spending it on the things that I need, spending it on the things that I want. And instead, I should mainly be focusing on stocks, because I own my own stocks financially through TD Ameritrade.
Oh, you got so?
Yeah. And I'm trying to invest more into it and putting more money into it so it can grow.
Good. I'm going to get into that a little bit later.
Oh.
So one of the first things we do is that whenever you make money, there's only three things you can do with it. The first thing you can do is you can spend it. Second thing you can do is lend it. That means put it in the bank. And the third thing you do is own something. Own something means like owning stock. You can do certain things, like in other words, like you could buy a bike. That's something you could utilize. That would be a resource that you'd be able to utilize maybe to get somewhere and do something, but not in LA because everyone's distracted driving. You may want to buy a car or later on investment or house or stocks. So remember, spend it, lend it, own something. So you also call it with my kids the 1/3, 1/3, 1/3 plan. So my sons now, what they do is they actually bring in trash or take out trash for our neighbors. We send out a little email to our neighbors. Hey, if you're out of town, let us know, we'll do it. They started charging $20. And just so you know, it takes about 5 minutes. So that's about $240 an hour. So these kids are highly paid. I'm like, wow. So I tell them the 1/3, 1/3 plus one. So the first $7 they give, okay? They give 1/3. Teach them how to, before tithing, I said, I know tithing is 10%. The word tithe means tenth, is they give $7. Then $7 they invest, and then $7 they spend. Then my son said to me, Dad, 7 times 3 is 21 when we had 20. I said, man, I add a little something to it because I want you to be able to understand what happens when you give first. I'm starting to teach them how God works. Stephen, there are 3 systems that operate in this world. As you get older, you'll learn them. The first is God's system. That's built on giving and receiving. God gives, you receive. Second system is a world system. It's called borrowing and lending. Your parent, Jack, they know about this. You get a car loan, you get a house loan, you borrow money to try to do certain things, to go to school, to do things. And then you pay it back. The third system is how well you manage your own money. So there's three. So how well you start giving first, and then how well you manage the world system, and then how you manage your own system. You actually have to learn how to manage all three of those. Jack, so when you're managing all three of these, what's something that you think is important when we're talking to kids that come to Rites of Passage and we start talking about money management? In a minute, I'm going to ask you about when I come and when we come and when we do this. What's something that you think that is good for kids, and some of the things that you teach them about what they should do when they manage money?
The one important thing that we speak to our initiates about when it comes to money is be more responsible, accountable, and understand that you need to work and develop your own management of money, not ask mama or whoever's in charge for their money. Start building your own income.
Right.
Which he seems to be doing pretty good so far.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm going to have I want you to comment a little bit on that, but that's one of the biggest areas, because one of the things is kids think your money is their money. There's a lot of famous people that give us, and they'll say, "Daddy, we're rich." I'm like, no. I'm rich. You're in this house with their kids, or different things like this.
That's right.
Because this, what's so tough is that you may know your parents have been through. I'm not going to speak for you guys. They've been through a lot. And we may be up here now, but we didn't start up here. And the process that we went through to get up here, we want you to learn that so that you value it a lot more.
Yeah.
I went with my wife, and I was telling her something, as during Thanksgiving time, one of the things I told her is that I went and visited one of the first, when we got married. We lived in a unit, it was a 3-unit building. And there was 2 units in the front, and there was a unit in the back. It was on top of garages. And she was the one that convinced me, or talked to me about, when we were dating, not married, to rent out the ones in the front. She said, "You'll make so much more money. You'll run cash positive. You just stay in the back." I was like, let me get on one knee. We need to get because that was attractive to me, how she managed finances. And how someone manages finances actually tells you how they're going to manage things in the future. If they're messy with money now and they have a little bit, when they get a lot, they'll be just as messy. That's how they lose it. When you're teaching financial principles and you're teaching them to your son, and you're showing them how to manage finances and different things like this, how much do you share, and then how much do you just keep, then there's some you keep from them, you may, but then how much do you just share with them when it comes to finances?
I typically share a lot. I mean, I'm pretty transparent about bills that have to be paid every month,
right.
How much that costs, how we can reduce that cost by turning off the lights or unplugging, things from the electric socket. But I'm pretty transparent with my kids about
right. Do you know why that's
what
important?
The bills are. Mm-hmm.
You know why that's very important? Is there's people that say, I just want to show them, I don't show them that, and then I pay for everything. Mm-hmm. You know what that, I'm sorry, I'm going to use a swear word in a minute. That actually creates entitled people. Mm-hmm. So when they do that, you know what my mother used to do when I used to go to the grocery store? She used to have a list. And then if it wasn't a list, we weren't getting it. It took me till I was maybe about 15, 16 to figure out. I was like, there's nothing on here that's fun. Like everything on this list is...
Stephen writes that list for me every
right.
week.
See that? So, but you see the importance of that? I want you to write this down as a technique. I'm sorry, if you're over 40, write it down. If you're under 40, just type it. I know you don't write nothing down. But that's the whole, the reason when you're showing him that and why you want to show your kids this is you're holding them accountable. Mm-hmm. So they know how to go to a store and how you have a list. Yeah, believe it or not, they asked one day, my mom when she knew I was going to be a financial advisor. She said, one time she used to give me the list and I used to go down the store and I used to be able to buy groceries, I'm not old, for $20. And she used to give me $20 and I'd get the list. And there'd always be an extra $1 left. So the extra $1 my sister, I have a twin sister. It's funny, I have twin. And we'd buy candy. They'd buy candy. Then one time I started going by myself. I said, I'm not going to buy candy. Remember this, dented cans. I kind of followed the flow of how our family bought food. I would take the extra dollar and I would buy other food that we would use on the list. And then right above the refrigerator, there's a little area. And I used to put food up there and store it. And then during the summertime, we were getting ready to go on a camp. And my mom gave me the $20. I went to the store and bought some milk and put it back and set it down. She says, where's all the other groceries? And I went and pulled them all down and put them right there and then gave them to her because I had all the extra money because she saw the 20 already sitting up here. Do you understand what that is? That's planting and harvesting. You see, on a farm, they have chickens, cows, pigs, and horses. How do you make a farm bigger? There's only two ways, Stephen. You either have to buy more animals. Later on, when I go into investing, that means putting more money in. The second way is the animals reproduce. That's how it works in farming. Do you know how it works in the investment world? Instead of chickens, cows, pigs, and horses, how they reproduce is income, dividends, capital gains, and interest. So what you need to do is harvest those by putting money into things that produce that. So you said you had an account. I'm a good listener. Did he say he had an account? He named the firm. He said the firm with his chest out a little bit, didn't he?
He said the firm.
He said the firm. Yeah, I got an account over at,
He does.
That was cute.
I was impressed.
I was too. I said, just let you know, we have a few of those too. All right. So initially, when you started investing, what initially got you started investing into it?
Well, it was actually because of my mom's influence. We had a little bit of extra money, and we decided to utilize it and spend that towards stocks and TD Ameritrade.
Okay, hold on a second. Everybody, he said he had some extra money. When you went and you decided to invest it, can I ask you a quick question? When you went to invest it, were stores open? Like there's stores open, like Target, Walmart, since you naming names. You could have spent the money, right?
Yeah.
But he wanted to invest it. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
And after I finished investing it, I started out with about like $50, and I just began to buy different shares in like a few small companies, and then over time it began to grow.
Okay, gotcha. So everybody's wanted to just say two things you learned about this before Jack jumps in here and tells you the things you learned. Number one thing that you learned about that is, everybody, you start with $50. Yeah. That's a really good way to start. Yeah. There's people that actually call me and say, I don't have enough money to get started. I'm like, $50 is, I'm not saying that. That's a good low barrier of entry. So you did $50. And then also, you said you started buying companies. So I'm going to now break down some things I'm just assuming that you did. You're buying what's called fractional shares, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. So let me give you an example. So if I'm just using McDonald's or Coke or any publicly traded company, and let's say the share is trading for $100, or Amazon at one point was at about $2,500, all right? So instead you say, well, I don't have $2,500, but you can put in $25 and own a fraction of that. So then he started doing that. Watch, he's good, man. See that? He didn't just throw out the name of the company and didn't have nothing behind it. Now he tell me he doesn't start, he's running down the race. Now also you guys do something called dollar cost averaging. So then you put in $50, then what happened? Then you did something, then what happened?
I started to buy fractions of companies, and then slowly but surely it began to grow. Although there were a few setbacks, I ended up with like $35 at one point, and then it began to grow even further. And
gotcha. Well, setbacks. This is really good. I guess he said setbacks. I guess y'all that was market fluctuation. I guess is that what you said? Right. When you're playing, he played little sports and we played little sports. We never lost. No. We just had a setback. Yeah. Mm-hmm. The team happened to have a few more points than we did. Yeah. We were playing against UCLA one time. They said, did you lose? I said, no, the clock ran out on me. Yeah. Okay, I'm sorry. You had a setback. You went from 50 to 35. Mm-hmm. But then this is the thing. Did you sell out and just say it doesn't work?
No, I kept on going.
If you remember that, you'll be successful. What happens is when markets go down, that's actually when you become more active. You actually at your age, what's your age?
I'm 14.
Okay, now when it goes down, you ought to be happy. You ought to be happy. Because all that's doing is making your barrier entry even lower. Now, if you bought a share and it was $25 and it goes down to, you said 35, it went down, and then if it goes from 25 down to 15, then now you can buy 2 shares for 30. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, let me speak in everybody's language. Just like if something's on sale at the store, you know what I mean? Like if it's at $100, then they mark it down to 75, then what do? You look at it, then when it goes down to 50, then you call up your friends. That's what happens in the markets. So glad you had a setback, and then what happened?
I had a setback, but I didn't let that get me down. I kept on going and remained persistent and see different opportunities in which I can gain my money back and grow even further. So I started doing that, and eventually my money kept on increasing. Okay. And although there's an inflation and money goes down, I eventually got my money back, and it's keeping on growing.
Gotcha. So hey, everybody, I'm gonna explain something to you, Stephen, and then just kind of go through something. So you had money, and the markets went down. Okay. Then you use up the term inflation, mm-hmm. right? So just so we're clear on what the inflation is that it's something called supply and demand. So what inflation is that you have a lot of dollars in the system, and then there's a limited supply. So what happens is when there's a limited supply and there's a lot of demand, it drives up the price. And that's what inflation is. So what happened is, during the pandemic, there was all these programs that went forward. You guys know about these. PPP, Paycheck Protection Program, stuff like this, where they put a lot of money in the system. And then people couldn't spend it as rapidly. They couldn't go on trips or do different certain things. Then when the economy opened back up, the demand was so high, like planes, you guys knew that. Planes, like you would set up something, they didn't have enough they didn't have people working to be able to do it. So that raises prices, raised gas price, inflation. Oh my good, gas prices. You don't know this yet since you're 14, but people making decisions at the gas station. Gas, lunch, stuff like that. So that happens. So one of the ways you outpace inflation is investing your money and everything like that. And then just some other things, and then I'd just like to go over now back to parents. There's certain things that you can do in your household to hedge against inflation. So those things we want to share with you, and also a couple of them that we went over. Also, I did an entire show on that. But one of the things is that if it's on sale, you're going to learn this too, since you have the grocery list now, is that if it's on sale, you get it while it's on sale. Like in other words, like they had a sale at I talk about Costco all the time. They had detergent that was cheaper. It's $10 cheaper than it usually is. 31, it's 21. So instead of buying 1, you buy 2, right? Because it's less, and then you can use it later. That's one. You can do things ahead. And you guys let me know if there's other things that you guys want to do. I'll let you guys know. Number 2 is buy gas on Mondays. If they've done a study that historically, if you buy gas on Mondays, it's cheaper. But everybody knows buying on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday is the most expensive days if you do that all the time. But you always just do certain things. And then this is the part about family doing it together, is that look at how you guys shop together and in doing it. I was given a hard time, then I'll go back and let you guys know anything else you want to add to it. Our family went on a family trip to Hawaii this summer. So one of the things I did to do to hedge against inflation was I knew how much everything was expensive. Imagine on an island. So what I did is I went and bought all of the groceries here in town, put them in a suitcase, and flew there with them. So that way when we got out, people go, we're going to go visit Pearl Harbor. And they said, we're going to go over this little, and then I said, hey, before you guys go over there and stand in that line and get that $5 and $6 bag of chips and everything, here's all your food right here. Do you see what I'm doing? The same thing when I was a kid. Same thing when I was around your age. I planted something in the United States and I harvested when I was in Hawaii. So everybody else was spending $100 on lunch. I already had it with me. You started with $50. You're investing. Next, we're going to you getting jobs or you're opening a business. And then you take, and the first thing you do is put God first. You give, because God will open doors for you. You know, I knew a guy, his name is Jack. And he had people call him and ask him to come down and audition. And out of all the people in the world, they picked him. Is it because he's good looking? Smart? It's because God blesses him. And I'll let him tell you about how God blesses him. But you understand, you put God first, then you invest monthly. And then you start spending. You learn to reverse that order, because then you learn how to be in control and in doing that. How have you seen how God is blessed and when you put God first? And I'm saying for men, but for everybody, when you put God first,
right,
and you've seen doors that he's opened for you. And the only reason I bring that up is we were talking before the show started, is that when Jack would do commercials and different things, I used to go to certain cities and I'd go like this. I know that guy on the screen. I'm in a restaurant, right? I'm in the hotel lobby eating the thing. I know that guy. And they're like, you don't know that guy. I'm like, I do know that guy. So anyway, everybody, here's that guy. So can we just talk about how God, but God is, tell me, I mean, God has blessed you, I mean, to do things that there's no way you can say that you've done your own.
Yeah. No, I point to everything, the blessings, and I point and I say, that's God did that. But, the big thing about God's blessing and how it works is that whole scripture that says it's better to give than to receive. It's the giving. It's constantly giving. And that's it always comes back. It always comes back. But God has blessed me in so many ways, not just from an entertainment standpoint. I think my biggest blessing has been this program, this Rites of Passage program, because all the men, not just myself, but all the volunteers, the other men who support the boys, the women who support the parents, we all volunteer our time. It's a labor of love. And I think I've gotten, of all the things, all the successes and everything I received from work that I've done in my life, I can honestly say my biggest blessing has been giving and feeding into the lives and changing destinies of these young men. And God has blessed me because of it.
Right. And about God blessing you also is that, and then I want to ask you a question just you being elder here at the church,
yeah,
but then also village elder also.
Yes.
In doing this is that watching you impart with these young men, just how they are not only just how to act, but they get to model and see how you are, yeah, and to see how men are. And I'd like to ask you guys the impact of that because of this reason. Like when there was a water crisis in Mississippi, mm-hmm, and when we had received an abundance of water. Thank you so much for that. We had to actually fly there to help distribute it all because we thought we were only going to have one truckload, and then when we ended up having 3, it was a lot more water, so we did that. But when we called you on now y'all ever heard of calling people last minute? You ever call people at 11 hour? We called them at 11:52.
Yeah.
And the way that the way Rites of Passage came down, helped us load those water, help us wrap it, and help us move the water around. And this is the thing, not one. I want you to tell us about this, and then also the impact. Not one person had that. They're like, everybody was loading the cart.
Yes.
Then people that couldn't fit it on the cart were carrying it in their hand, and just the attitude behind it.
Yeah.
In doing that. So I just wanted to ask you one about the impact of that, but just how do you model that to them where everybody has that attitude?
I think you were one of them that was there, that was supporting the program. We asked them. We said we have an opportunity to support a water shortage that's happening in Mississippi. Instead of doing some other tactics or other exercises, how do you feel about supporting? And there's a lot of lifting that went on. Right. Glad you're younger than me. You can,
Right.
But they did that, and they said they were ready. They wanted to support. They wanted to give, and it's a model. It's a model, and Rites of Passage is a godly program. It's a Christ-centered program. So it's hard to be involved in this program as a young man and not get that first lesson. The first lesson is, is serving the Lord and being committed to the Lord. And you do that in practical ways, especially 12 to 15-year-olds. You got to keep it practical.
Right.
And supporting that water shortage situation, it was something they related to right away.
Right. Did you see the benefit of that?
Yes, actually, I did. When I was giving and helping with the water crisis, I was like, oh, wow, look at me. I'm actually helping. I'm actually doing something. So, yeah, I did see the benefit in doing that, yeah.
Hey, let's talk to Mom. What are some things that you talk to your son about financially that you're passing down to him?
I think it's really about being good stewards over what they have. So what they've acquired, what's within their responsibility to maintain. And then also how to spend their money responsibly. And then how to not only just think about what they want to spend their money on today, but also what tomorrow might hold or what the future will be, of what they might need later on down the line.
Right, that's good. So you said stewardship, so that's how you manage something. How are you showing them, or how's she kind of showing you how to manage things as far as?
Mainly by setting my priorities straight. So, like, for instance, I have say I have $50 in my account.
Right.
There's temptation to like go spend that money on like say games or say other food or say other things that I want. But instead, know that the future outcome will be greater than what I have now. And,
Okay. See that? So breaking it down. So yeah, the term stewardship, no, that's really good, is how well you manage something. And then future is the time value of money. And then also you said that looking at kind of things in the future. So how are you kind of showing him like kind of things in the future for him to be able to be managing things like that?
Well, I mean, nobody want to work forever, but knowing that you're eventually going to want to, retire, or you're going to want to travel, or you're going to want to experience new things, and what you have to do to plan, because planning is so essential. It's about knowing what you want to do or what aspirations you have, how to pay for college, how that's going to get paid, or new things that they want for next year or
Right.
things that are coming up. It's just really just teaching them that you have to kind of plan today for what you want in the future.
That's great. So how would you say that, not just to him, but let's say a parent, and then I'm going to ask you the same question. A parent would like to, what are some things you would tell them to do for their kids?
I would say it doesn't have to be a lot. As Stephen mentioned, he started off with $50. And then, over a quarter, I hold back a certain portion of what I work for, so that they can continue to keep investing and learning more about how that money can grow without them having to do anything.
Right. Yeah, they say the term passive income, like the thing, but I'm challenged by that lately because I think even real estate, there ain't nothing passive.
Yeah.
But that's good that he's starting to see that.
Yeah.
That's good. Jack, what's something that you would tell somebody, if you're talking to yourself 30 years ago, what would you have told yourself to do differently when you see somebody younger that you tell them to do?
Well, the first thing I would say is don't play football because you're going to get, oh, no, that's not what we're talking about. My bad. 30 years younger, I would say some of what we say to our young men in Rites of Passage, and that is, I'm going to test you, you always have two what?
Choices.
Choices. So when we speak that into their lives, the first choice is a responsible choice, a choice that God would want you to do, your parents would want you to do, your coach, the good, righteous choice. The second, you're already ready. Look at you. You can't wait till I finish, George. The second choice
Is anything but the first choice.
if it doesn't get a good result, you made a second. You made a second choice, and that's not a good one. From a financial standpoint, they would say the first choice is one you use your money in a way that's going to be productive for you, and most importantly, we don't even take a young man into a program unless they're able to be responsible for all their choices, for everything they do. So he can't come to the program without being, the buck stops with him. He can't say, well, my mom or someone else. He has to be responsible for all of his actions.
Right.
and it
It's
works
like,
that
it's
way.
like no excuses. But just so you know, and I'm speaking for your mom and Jack and myself, is that one of the biggest mistakes people make, just so you know, is number one, not making a decision. You see how you're doing it, procrastinating and doing that? So you're doing a lot of the right things. And then all that, good job. You were able to repeat that, is making the right choices. Because one of the biggest mistakes is making a poor decision and following up with another and another. So yes, so another concluding question is this, is if you could even tell yourself when you were his age, what would you have changed or done differently that you share now probably?
I think I would be careful about the decisions that I made, about money, about how I used it, about things that I wanted that was, really, kind of dissipated real fast. It was a momentary excitement, and then there was nothing else after. It was
Right.
nothing else after that.
Right. Jack?
Just try things. I tell my younger self, take risk when I don't have kids, when I don't have a lot of responsibilities, don't have a lot of debt. Take risk. Try if it's an opportunity and it's a good sound opportunity, and do the research and then go for it, Aim high. That's what I would tell myself 30 years ago.
That's great.
Yep.
So hey, I want to thank you, Jack, for joining us and going through this. Stephen, I want to thank you. I pray that you learned something in doing this.
Yeah, thank you.
Mom, you've been a great example in showing your son in doing something called modeling. Modeling is you show people. Some people tell people what to do all the time. But when you show people what to do, that's when it really sinks in. And that's what Rites of Passage does. Family, I'm Pastor George Thompson. Thank you so much for joining us on The Wealth Cycle. Merry Christmas, happy holidays. God bless you, and we'll see you on our next episode. Hey family, give me a high five. I bet you there's 5 people that you can think of that you can share this with. We want to make it easy for you to ask a question. Just put it right there in the chat. We may not be able to answer all the questions, but we'll do our very best.